when I look at, it was hard for me for a long time to explain what I do for business, because people are like, this is my friend Andy. He's a comedian and he's an author and he's this and he's that. And I have, it took years for me to be able to say, well, my whole message is that we need to lean into our insecurity and our quirky things for them to be our superpower. And the way that I bring that to the world is through these different methods, whether it's speaking to organizations to help their teams develop or their leadership be authentic, or one-on-one coaching, or as an author, or as an entertainer through observational life things about just recognizing those things that are quirky and different about people.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. It's the Author Podcast. Again, you get to meet amazing people. And what I love about podcasting is you get to meet amazing people and they come back. So we're doing something right, because Andy's back. I've had many conversations with this gentleman. This guy is everywhere, and I love watching his content. I love watching what he does. We're going to get a little bit awkward in our conversation because Andy's known for being awkward in his content and what he's done, and I love that, and it makes me smile every time. I'm going to come on and talk about his journey as an author here today. We're going to have him on Dad Space. We're just going to create more episodes just to have more time with Andy. Andy, welcome to the show. Nice to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, Dave. I love it. Anytime I get to have a conversation with you is a good day. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Wow. I will send you $5 for that. Thank you so much. Great. Andy, tell everybody where you are in this big world of ours. Where are you?
I am in Tacoma, Washington. So that's on the west side of the U.S., northwest corner.
Okay. So fill in the blank. Home of ...
Home of all sorts of stuff. So ironically, I actually have had a goal to buy a billboard just as a joke that says, "Welcome to Tacoma, Washington, the birthplace of Andy Vargo." Because I thought that would actually be, from a marketing standpoint, you'd get people Googling, like, was this guy in the Olympics? Am I supposed to know him? So that may
know
pop
that
up
guy.
Someday.
Really?
We've had a lot of good things here. Almond Roca's from here. The Mars bars started here. The guy who wrote Dune was started here, and a lot of his philosophy in that book were from the Asarco plant here that was kind of toxic, smelter plant going out into things. So that was a lot of his mindset behind the theory for Dune came from Tacoma.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of little things that came from here that no one ever knew about, because originally it was supposed to be the bigger version of what Seattle became.
Yeah, so that sounds interesting. Let's talk a little bit about your journey as an author. I'm always curious how somebody gets into this, because some people tripped and fell into becoming an author. Some people do this on purpose. What was it for you, the draw to say, I've got ideas, I want to become an author, I want to share stories? How did you get into this?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I feel like my journey, and maybe it's not backwards, it felt backwards to me, but from an early age, I wanted to be an author. I was encouraged by different teachers that you're really good in writing. You should write. Early on when I was in grade school, and I remember feeling like I could put out good content, but not feeling like I had something I was passionate enough to write about. So it's kind of, I was at odds with that. Yes, I'd love to do that, but I don't know what story to tie to that talent. And I would do a lot of writing in high school, a lot of that coming to terms with life poetry and journal entries that was deep, but just sorting out my own life, and then kind of set that on the shelf. I had kids at an early age and got busy with life and didn't write for probably a couple decades other than, work type stuff. And when I started going through divorce and kind of reinventing life, I had been doing some more writing, been doing a little bit of blogging and stuff online. And I think, like all authors, there's how many books that we've started writing that sometimes were a chapter or two, and sometimes were a sentence or two, and sometimes it's the title on the document, but you open it up and it's a blank document. It's like, I just saved the idea. And I had several of those going on. And I decided at one point when my divorce was happening and I had gotten laid off from a job, and I thought, I got to go for this. I've never finished any of these books. I need to make it happen. So I really made a point to start writing books. And the book at the time that I was working on, that I thought was going to be the first book finished, which still has not been finished, by the way, was going to be called The Awkward Interview. And it was talking about all the things we don't want to have to talk about in an interview that I've encountered and that I can help people through that I do now with coaching,
Nice.
like having a gap on your resume or getting fired or not having gone to college and how to handle all those things. But then I started focusing a lot more on the personal journey. So I ended up writing what was going on in my life, and that actually became the first books that I got published.
New author listening, Andy, they're listening to our conversation and they're like, well, you're way down the path than I am. As a new author, I want to do what you're doing, but like, who cares what I have to say? There's so many books out there, Andy. Why do my book doesn't even have a chance against all of these other. What would you say to somebody who's wrestling with kind of that self-identity as a new author and finding their place in the world? What would you say?
I would say somebody cares. You're going to connect with somebody and it's going to surprise you. When I published my first articles just as a blog on LinkedIn, I remember putting my point of view out into the world. And as soon as you hit publish, you kind of go into that, I'm very exposed right now. Who's going to...
Oh, no. What have I done?
Right.
What have I done?
Like, oh, gosh, now I'm going to hear about it. People are going to... You get the imposter syndrome and all this stuff. And I remember people saying, man, this really hit home. I really love this message. And I remember some of my first thoughts were, this is not really anything new. Like, I wasn't plagiarizing or copying anything, but I didn't feel like it was groundbreaking. But the way that each of us say something is going to connect differently with people. And someone out there needs to hear the way you put it to words. So don't beat yourself up about whether it's at the level of somebody else or going to connect in a certain way, because you're going to connect with the right people. And for myself, I self-published everything that I've done so far because I don't take rejection well, and so I can't handle like reaching out and getting rejected. I've done some outreach, but I'll set the limit of like, I'm going to send out 10, and if I don't hear back in X amount of weeks, I'm moving on. But for me, it's more important that my words are out there and available to my audience than that I found a publisher to get them. Most of what I've written supports my coaching, so it's been in that mindset for myself of that I need these available so people can get the words. If 1 million people don't find them, that's the risk I'm willing to take because I'd rather get it out there sooner. Now I'm not saying I'll never pursue that, but that's been my course so far.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I think from an author's perspective, listening as well, is just that fear of, again, like you said, rejection or people not accepting you, or the idea too that you're doing something new, that people don't know you for that.
Right.
They don't know you as an author. They know you as this, and now all of a sudden you show up doing something new. They're like, they don't know how to handle that. Like, to support you, do they feel jealous? Do they feel intimidated that you're doing something that they always wanted to do, but they never had the actually did it and actually stepped forward, but you did. And now they're like, oh, Andy's doing it. Now you don't know how to deal with all this kind of feedback, right? So it's interesting.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed in my career, I was in grocery, and then I was in packaging sales and some category management. And then all of a sudden my LinkedIn profile says motivational speaker and life coach. And I realized I had to go back and rewrite the way I was telling the story of my career so people could follow the journey I was on. So I actually went through and changed the descriptions of each of those of those positions to say, this is where I first learned how to coach people when I was working in grocery and an assistant manager and coaching a team. And this is where I first spoke in front of groups and realized that was a calling, because sometimes we have to rewrite our story a little bit to help people understand our journey of how everything we did supports what we're doing now.
That's really smart. I like that you brought that up. That's my background too. Grocery, working in the store level and then all the way up into the office level, like all that stuff, right? And there's some transferable skills that you learn along the way, and they've invested in you.
Right.
But now you can carry that forward for yourself now. So leverage the things you've been taught.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. And I remember people asking me early on, well, why would you be an author? Why would you be a coach? Whatever. It's like the people who don't get you want to know. And they, sometimes it's from a interrogation standpoint. Sometimes it's very curious, but we can take it very defensively. And I know early on I didn't answer that question well, because I was like, oh, I don't know, just I've got experience, and got to a point where I realized I'm not, telling my own story very well. So I need to actually really word that in a way that helps them understand all of this experience is what got me to where I am now. And that's why I can do what I do.
Okay, so talk us through your writing then too. Like what's out there for readers? What can we fall in love with from you as an author? Like, is there a starting point? Where do we begin with you?
Sure. So I've got a couple different lanes that I go in, but it's all mainly around personal development. I have a couple different books, and if you're listening, I'm holding them up right now, but they're both called
There
Own
you
Your
go.
Awkward.
Well done.
One is
Own
called
Your
Own Your
Awkward.
Awkward Thoughts, and one is called Own Your Awkward Life Changes. Those are my two main core principles of my books. And each of them follow kind of an activity mindset. One has worksheets you can fill out along the way to learn a system to handle life changes, as well as talks about some lessons I learned along the way through all of the life changes I've gone through. The other one is focus on reframing the way you think. That's Own Your Awkward Thoughts. So it's got 60 days of reflections that set up a scenario of how you might be feeling in a moment with a mind shift to another way you could think with some reflection questions. So an example is you might be sitting in a cafe looking at everybody meeting their friends and thinking in your mind about how you're alone and no one's coming up to say hi to you.
Yeah.
Yet if you do the math on how many people didn't come say hi to you, it's the same amount that you didn't go say hi to. So maybe you could flip that on, and not to blame yourself, but to think,
good.
there is some ownership here. So then there's a few reflection questions that help you walk through, when have I been in that situation or what could I do? And so there's 60 days of that. And then the other book, the first book that I actually self-published was a guided journal, which was when I was at rock bottom. I had to start journaling. What 3 things can I do today to make the next day better? And realized when I started speaking and coaching that not everybody can work from a blank slate. So I wrote a journal that walks them through that process. And then I created 4 more. So I have a series of 5 guided journals. One of the things I joke about is that you can write a mostly blank book pretty quickly. So I give some prompts on there, and the reader has to actually finish writing it. And I remember one of my friends, when I was publishing it and promoting it, posted online saying, "I can't wait to read Andy Vargo's first book." And I was like, no, you did see it's a guided journal. There's not a lot of reading. But it was actually very close to me because that was what I went through when I was at rock bottom. I had to go through that process to pull myself up. So that was my first set of books. But the first book that I wrote and every author's probably got this, like my first quote unquote real book, was OneDrive Stands, which is stories about being a rideshare driver around Tacoma, where I live.
OneDrive Stands. I like that.
So yeah, they never call you back. So
No.
when I started when I was in the middle of my divorce, trying to figure out starting my business before I was even, while I was still working full time, but had to pay and come up with rent just to, money to pay rent and food. I was doing Uber and Lyft driving. And being an author and being someone who's observant of stories and what's going on, I realized there's a lot of stories here. So I just started capturing the stories, making notes, and then knowing that they were going to become a book. And then when I wrote the book, I had to think, well, what is the intent of the book other than entertaining stories? So again, in that mindset of, I need to put part of my journey into the book so I can talk about, I'm going through this. This is what it's like to be sitting in a parking lot by yourself waiting for the next ride. So there's maybe 30 or so stories in here about what's happening in a car, who I meet along the way. And sometimes you don't know the end of the story because you know someone for 10 or 15 minutes and you're left kind of wondering where it goes. But it does talk about the places that people get dropped off, the journey along the way. Some are crazy, some are inspiring. And one of the things I do now with this is I actually do a one-man show where I tell the stories on stage and I use the audience members' names in the show. So people fill out cards when they get there, and all of a sudden it's like, why is Dave, hitting on, his boss in the back seat or what? It can go any different direction. So it keeps me on my toes. It's almost like improv.
Okay, we gotta be careful because my wife listens to this show, Andy. So I want to just
right. And it was just made up it's fiction at that point, right?
The opinions expressed are the participant.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool, though. I was a limo driver for years.
Oh, wow. Yes.
And I've had some, like the big long cars, those big ones. I've had some pretty interesting things happen in a limo.
I bet
I got to
so.
tell you, that might be a book idea there
There
somewhere. I like
definitely
that.
is a book idea, and I have found that like anything, once you start drawing some stories out of your past, there's so many that we have forgotten, and then we start writing them down, and all of a sudden, oh, that's right, there was also this other time, and then there was this other time. So we think I can only remember 4 of those stories, and before you know it, you have 12, and then you have 20,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's a book I do plan to. I have a sequel about a third of the way written. I don't drive anymore in that capacity, but I did have
Yeah.
enough stories. I did over 3 years. I did 5,000 rides, so I had enough to still do
Wow.
more. So
Wow. That's a
yeah,
lot of
it
rides.
kept me busy.
That's amazing. See, now I love that's such a natural book for you to write. Like that's not, you're not. It's not fictional. It's real life. It's things you can, and then you can you can play with the stories a little bit too. You can add a little bit to it, obviously, but
Right.
it's kind of nice.
Well,
I
and
like that. It's a great starting
it
point.
is interesting because I found that I don't do well with fiction, like making things up. I can document and tell a story if it happened, and I can elaborate. I can have a little fun with that. Yet for me, I am so amazed at when an author comes up with what another world might look like, or where a story might go, or what could happen. And I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
wow, how do they do that? Yet for me,
Right.
it's okay. I can find meaning in a story. I can take something really small that happens and make it into a really meaningful life lesson or an observation or something we can take. Like that's my skill. But fiction, science fiction, I can enjoy reading them, and I can really admire that people do that, but I can't do it.
I had an author on, and they not only wrote a fiction book, science fiction, they also wrote like a complete new language for their characters
yeah.
on a planet. And I'm
Wow.
like, how do you have time for all that? I don't understand how you can do all
Yeah.
that. That's amazing.
And I also, you mentioned about how daunting it is and intimidating for someone to think about writing a book. For me, I have a process. I've learned that it's a process. I didn't know this at the beginning. I write basically about as much as I'm writing a blog, and I just write a bunch of entries, and eventually I sit down after I have enough of them that feel meaningful, and I look at and go, okay, in what order would I arrange these for it to look like a book? And then I go back and then I start filling in the blanks, which becomes the hard part because then I need to write what's missing. But initially, I just write what I think I want to say, and then I go back later and figure out, okay, how does that look like a book?
Interesting.
So
Talk about the own your awkward thing, because that's one thing I know you for the most when I see you online. Why is that such an anchor for you? What, can you explain and go back into a little bit about how that developed? Because I'm intrigued by that.
definitely. So I was not comfortable in my own skin for most of my life. At 40 years old, I got divorced, came out, started really understanding myself and being comfortable with who I was. Things that I kind of put on the shelf and said, no, like I'm going to just live the standard life and be who I'm supposed to be. And you get to a point where you realize how much that's actually holding you back, because not only are you not performing at your best, you're spending so much of your energy faking who you are that you're depleted, and then you can't show up for the people in your life. Like, you feel like it's selfish to be yourself, but actually it's the opposite. You're actually not able to perform your best for people and be there for them. So that was a major life changes, obviously, for me when I came to terms with who I was and made those decisions. And when I started realizing that was what I needed to do, I got into where I needed to make changes in my life and was starting my business and getting into coaching, and found that, man, if people could figure this out sooner and just be okay being themselves. And I'm not on a mission to go out there and be like, everybody's got to be gay and come out of the closet. Like, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying we all have something we don't feel comfortable about. It might be your body image, it might be your age, it might be the fact that you like pineapple on pizza and everybody around you thinks that's the worst thing in the world. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, but it's very uncomfortable to speak up and say, I'm a little bit different than everybody in the room. And the sooner that we can come to terms with that and realize that usually it's what most people love the most about us, is actually the key to our superpower. That's my thing. It's not about getting over it. It's about leaning into it and realizing that's actually what makes a difference in me being the best person I can be, the most successful person I can be, the best friend to the people in my life, because I can lean into what it is that I know I feel a little different about.
I love that as a foundation for what you do, Andy. I like that's I think there's so many people resonating with that right now going, it's like Andy's talking right to me right now.
I
right?
try to, yeah, and that's when I look at, it was hard for me for a long time to explain what I do for business, because people are like, this is my friend Andy, he's a comedian and he's an author and he's this and he's that, and I have, it took years for me to be able to say, well, my whole message is that we need to lean into our insecurity and our quirky things for them to be our superpower. And the way that I bring that to the world is through these different methods, whether it's speaking to organizations to help their teams develop or their leadership be authentic, or one-on-one coaching, or as an author, or as an entertainer through observational life things about just recognizing those things that are quirky and different about people.
I can see you light up as you talk about this stuff, Andy. And I think that's when somebody finds why they're here and who they're here for. I love seeing their faces kind of light up.
Right.
It's happening right now on my screen.
Yeah.
I can see it.
It is funny how that, it's such a simple thing, but it does make a difference.
Yeah.
And I read something one time about they basically said, when you have something that you can do until 2 or 3 a.m., you did your 24-hour podcast series not too long ago where you were up for 24 hours. But they say when you can do that thing and be up in the middle of the night and not tired and not sick of it, and not that you maybe that was extreme, so you may have started to get a little tired. But however, not to the point where you're giving up on it or not angry about it. Like, that's when you know that you're doing something that you should be doing or that you love. And that's when I look at my business, I'll get lost in all the things that you would think would drive me crazy, whether it's technical stuff, figuring out web details, or making social media posts, or writing the next chapter. And yet, because I'm so passionate and excited about the end game and helping people hear the message, the work no longer becomes daunting. And I think that's I talk a lot about our relationships, and those relationships can be with the things in our lives or the people, but it's the same dynamics no matter how you're viewing a relationship. There are positives and negatives, and we have to be so in love with the good things in that relationship that it minimizes the negatives. And so, when we have a partner, a spouse, we see the very worst side of them at times and the very best side of them because we know them better than anybody. But we love them so much that those bad days they have or the socks they leave on the floor, we're like, I love them so much that doesn't, maybe I might mention it every once in a while, but it's not enough that it takes away from it. And that's how we are with our passions too. It's like, I love this so much that I don't mind when I have to be up all night trying to figure out this technicality.
So what's the difference between owning your awkward and renting your awkward? Is there a difference?
That's a great question. I've never had anybody ask me that before. I guess I would say renting just feels a little bit borrowed. Like, maybe you're like, if you're owning it, to me, it's the difference of you're not living well in spite of it, or even though, like I say a lot of times, it's not that you are succeeding even though you have this thing. And to me, that's more renting. But this is, you are having a great life because of the thing. Like, for me, all the junk that I went through with coming to terms with myself, if I didn't go through all of that, I wouldn't be able to speak so passionately about it and be able to talk to people through those times where they are trying to come to terms with whatever that thing is. So that's me really being successful with what I'm doing now because of everything that held me back before. And that's owning it. Now, if I was showing up going, hey, I hope you let me in the door. I'd like to be part of this group, but I got this thing. I hope that you're okay with it. That's a little more on the rental side, where you think you're owning it because you're calling it out up front, but you're not saying, no, if you don't want me here with this thing and that you're not excited about it, then you're not my people and I'm moving on.
I like that. You've mentioned several times in conversation already that you help people through coaching. What type of person do you look forward to coaching and working with? Who lights you up in what you do, Andy, that you're like, I can really help this person
Yeah.
if I just have some time with
So
them?
there's a couple areas that I work with people. One of the things that I do a course where I help people get on stage. I help people with
Oh,
speaking because I do motivational speaking. And the thing that I
yes.
find across all of my clients, the thing that is the throughput is that people know they want to do something, whether it's they have a message they want to share or a business they want to start or a new role that they want to take on in their career and move up, but they can't quite figure out how to get there. And having those conversations with them about what they're already working with and bringing to the table is so exciting because it's so empowering to say, I'm not here to convince you that you got to change who you are. Maybe there's some refinement we can do on how we're packaging what you're bringing to the table and making sure you're giving yourself credit for what you're bringing to the table. But I work with people who are aspiring speakers. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are getting their businesses going, and then people in the professional space that are leaders and working to move up, whether it's move up within their organization or work better with their teams. But the constant throughput is that they have the tools within them, and we need to help them see them. Like people, a lot of times I'll have people on the entrepreneur side who they're like, man, I'm really passionate about skateboarding, but how does that become and I'm an artist, but how does that become a business? I'm like, have you thought about painting on skateboards? It's like whatever the thing is, like, how do we
Yeah.
mirror the two things and then also make them a revenue or go in the direction that you want to go? And that's what I love. I love problem solving and flipping things upside down, looking at them from a different angle.
How does owning our awkward help us to connect with an audience?
It is critical because to me, it's all about trust. And when
Yeah.
we're not owning our awkward, we are holding back. If I'm self-conscious about something right now, you're going to notice it. Like you mentioned, you see me light up. I'm not going to be lighting up. But the problem isn't that you don't see me light up. It's how you interpret that withdrawal. And on the receiving side, we interpret that like, man, Andy's holding back. I don't trust him. There's something he's not telling me. And yet, if I were to say, Dave, I feel self-conscious right now because I meant to get a haircut and it didn't get a haircut. And so I got some hairs out of whack and it looks like I have bedhead going on.
I do too. I do that.
It just breaks the tension. And immediately you know, oh, that's why he's acting what I might have thought was shady. It's because he's feeling unconscious or self-conscious about himself. And now we actually have a point of connection. And, like you just said, oh, I do that. Like right away. Okay, we have something in common right there. We can go, oh, yeah, it just happened last week. And now we're no longer trying to pretend like everything's perfect. And it's so much more important to be connected if you want to get across to your audience than it is to have a perfect delivery. And that's the thing I come back to with my speaking clients all the time. There are so many people out there who focus on don't say an don't say an ah, don't say all these things. And yet, if I want to listen to a speech from AI with no ums or ahs, I could do that, but I'm not going to connect with it. And as soon as I hear a speaker who, there's a difference between going, Dave, you asked me that. That's really powerful. Let me think about that. Now I'm putting a couple ums and ahs in there, but it's reflective because it shows that I'm putting thought into what you just asked me.
Right.
Now that's much different than you saying, Andy, what do you do? And I say, well, I do speaking and I have this brand. It's Own Your Awkward. So, there's an element where we may want to clean it up a little bit, but there's an element where it shows consideration and thought.
That must make sense. Okay, yeah, I was listening to Jay Shetty podcast at work last night. And at the beginning of the podcast, it says, this is a guaranteed human podcast. And I'm like, wow, like we're actually calling out now. This is human generated content.
Yeah.
I'm like, are we doing this? I'm like, I'm not doing this. Maybe I need to do this.
I did this.
But yeah, I think that reality, right, is cool.
I love that. I did this recently on a LinkedIn post where I had put a dash in the thing, and then I put in parentheses dash added by human. Because that's become such a thing is when there's an M dash, it's a call out that it's AI. I was like, wait, no, that's what I was going to use. And now I feel like I can't use it. But then I feel like if so I just, for the humor of it, I'm like, nope, I'm putting that in there.
We need to delve into that deeper, right? There's another way to identify AI, the word delve.
Right.
It's like, I like the word delve. I'm not allowed to use that anymore.
But here's the truth. Or most people don't.
Here's the truth.
And some of that is the way that I have written in the past. And I even have found myself starting to type out some of those phrases that AI uses. And then I'm going, well, now I can't say that
Yeah, anytime somebody comments on that, I say, you realize that these models were trained on what's popular human speech.
Right.
So they're just magnifying what we're already doing,
Right.
So there's a reason why they're doing that.
That's a
So
good
just
point.
just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for the two own your awkward books, then can you kind of just give us a little more sense of for the reader of the two? Is there a starting point? Would get them to start with? Where would we like to go?
Sure. I think if you are, there's two reasons. If you're in the middle of a change, I would start with Own Your Awkward Life Changes, or if there's a change that you sense coming up, that book is all about teaching you a process to deal with change, because there are so many books on the market about how to deal with certain changes, yet there are skills we can apply to change in general, and we don't teach that. And that's something that I think is really to our detriment, because we are going to be experiencing change our entire lives. And if we can learn, oh, this is a different scenario, but I can use the same skills, whether it's a relationship change, relocation, career changes, I can apply the same questions, same assets, same process. And so that book is great for anybody who sees change on the horizon or is in a place where they just know that's going to be coming down the road. And even if you're in the middle of it right now and you're like, man, I wish I read that 6 months ago before I got into the middle of this. That's the whole point of this book, is no matter where you're at in change, let's get you to a position where you can make the best of it. Now, if you are in a position where you're thinking, man, sometimes I just get these thoughts that get in the way of life, that's where Own Your Awkward Thoughts is great. And I would say there's thoughts that we don't know are getting in the way. So if you don't have an immediate change or something that you want the other book for, that's a really good one that kind of is going to touch on everybody, because it's going to help you look at how can I apply questions to what I'm going through. There's 6 master questions that you can apply to any situation. Like, what's a better ending I could tell myself than the one I'm saying right now? Or what would I tell my best friend in this situation? So there's those 6 questions, and then the book walks you through examples on how to apply those the whole way.
Okay. So when you go back to the idea of change, why do we fear change so much? Like, why is it so abrasive for us in the moment?
The thing that I have found is that we immediately create a list, kind of our doom and gloom list of all of our fears related to change, of what could change. But we only put down the things that we're afraid of and the negative things. We don't automatically default to saying, what good things could come out of me losing my job right now? What great things might come out? Like, sometimes we can get to that through conversations with our friends, but it's the second wave and it usually takes some coaxing. So we tend to equate change as negative because we're afraid of losing our sense of security, losing our control. There's so much of a fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really hammer home in that book is that change in and of itself is neutral. We don't know if things were good or bad till a long time down the road. Like, we want to say, oh, I lost my job, that was a bad change. Or I'm getting married, that was a good change. Well, years down the road, that marriage may have been very abusive and toxic and may have bankrupted you. And that job loss might have been what got you to start your own business that ended up being the best thing ever. So, but in the moment, we already decide it's good or it's bad, and then we make choices based on our perception, and that's where it's dangerous.
I heard on a podcast, they were talking about fear, and they said on that show that fear is generally tied to things that you're curious about. Those are the things you fear. So, and then the things that you don't fear, you're probably not interested in. So, for example, I do not fear jumping out of a plane because I probably never will.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid of it.
Right.
Because there's nothing in me that's afraid of it because I'll never do it. I'm not afraid of sharks. Yeah. I live in Ontario, Canada. Right. There's no sea anywhere close to me. The chances of me meeting a shark, very slim to none. So I'm not afraid of sharks.
Right.
Right. But I am afraid of getting on stage in front of people because that could happen.
Sure.
That brings me fear, but I'm curious about it. I'm interested in that. I want to pursue that. Right. And working with somebody like you would definitely help. But that's something that interests me. So that makes me fearful because there's stakes involved. I have no stakes involved in meeting a shark or jumping out of a plane or doing both at the same time. So I'm not worried about that.
That's such a good perspective.
I'm only worried about the things, right, that interest me.
Yeah, and
that's why I'm fearful.
you can't be afraid of it if you don't care about it.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Right?
One thing
but getting on stage, you could help me with that. So that's good.
And one thing with fear, I find that we put a label on a fear that is a lot of times incorrect. I used to say I was afraid of heights. And it's like, actually, I'm not really afraid of heights. I'm afraid of falling. And if I dial it down even further, I'm not actually afraid of falling. I'm afraid of landing. The falling isn't going to hurt you. It's the end.
Yeah.
So when we actually get into what are we afraid of, we a lot of times we attach it to the wrong part of the process, and then we don't take any actions around that.
I can see why you're funny. I like this. This is good. Making me laugh, Andy. I like it. You're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. No, it's good. So, okay, let's again talk a little bit more about the coaching, because I think there's a lot of people you could help. I know I talk to authors all the time. They want to get on stages with their books. They want to get out beyond podcasts. There's a lot of things that you could help authors with. And even if you're not an author listening and you're like, I want to go to that next level. I have these opportunities I want to pursue. I'm afraid of them because I'm interested in them, and I want Andy to help me. So if I came to you, Andy, or someone listening came to you and said, what's the starting point working with Andy? What does that look like? What does that feel like if I sign up with you and say, Andy, you're my person? Let's go.
Right.
Where do we start?
Well, first, I can't help you if I don't know two things. And one is, where are we trying to go? And where are you right now?
Good.
And then, so really we start out very exploratory. Where are you at and where do you want to get to? And sometimes a lot of the dynamics are, do you know where you want to get to? And maybe that first conversation is, are you honest with yourself about where you want to get to? Or are you applying what other people think or what you feel other people think you should get to? So we do a lot of work around that so that we're really making sure we're not wasting time on trying to get you in a tank with sharks. And you're like, I didn't want to get in a tank with sharks, but everyone told me I should do that because it would make a great podcast episode. and yet you're like, I never wanted to do that. So we have really honest conversations around that. And then we start basically breaking down, okay, well, if we want to get there, let's say we want to get to a certain place in a year, what are the next immediate steps that we need to take so that we make it manageable for each person? If you want to be speaking and you're completely afraid of getting on stage, okay, then we need to get you comfortable in front of an audience before we work on your main message. Let's just get you over that. And whether that's open mics or Toastmasters or talking to talking at your dining room table. So each step of the way, we just break it down to what is manageable for you. And it's really important that we are coming up with things that get you wins and successes that don't have you revert and go backwards. And then to me, it really just comes down to that honesty about, is it really what you want? Because so many people are putting dreams on their list. And when you like for me, like one of my kind of a joke too, but I used to think, man, I want a gym bod, but I'm not getting up and going to the gym every morning. It's like, I guess I just want a guy with a gym bod. Like there's a difference. Like I don't need the gym bod. But if you're not willing to do the work, then you have to be honest. Well, you must not want it bad enough. And in the social media age, we see snippets of everybody else's lives who are putting all their time and effort into different areas to excel in. And great that they're excelling in all those areas. But we take 10 different people's expertise and then expect that we should be able to perform at that level in all those areas instead of being real with ourselves about, well, I'm either going to be the funny guy or I'm going to be the writer or I'm going to be the speaker or I'm going to have the great bod or I'm going to swim with the sharks, whatever that thing is. So we really identify that first. And then we say, okay, let's figure out how to get the noise out of your head, how to get you comfortable and confident even when your friends say, but you should be doing this. You're like, nope, that's not my focus right now. I'm doing this thing over here, and take a step at a time.
It's really good, Andy. I love chatting with you. This is really fun. I know you're going to come back for Dad Space, and you'll just keep coming back because we have a lot of things to talk about. You're just so amazing. What I would say to everyone listening, Andy's going to give us our go-to and where we're going to go to follow him. But my caution to you is if you follow this gentleman you're going to see a lot of Andy, just so you know, because I follow Andy and he's always on my feed. Everywhere I go, there's a little bit of awkwardness there waiting for me from Andy. So he's doing it well. So Andy, to that point, where are we sending people to get the books, stay in touch with you, follow your journey, and in the coaching side too? Lots to ask of you.
Yeah, no,
where are we going?
I appreciate it. So the easy answer is if you go to awkwardcareer.com. That's my website, awkwardcareer.com, and that's got links in the footer to all my social media, upcoming events. There's a bookstore that has my books, links to merch. You can find my podcast there where Dave's been on and he's owned his Awkward.
Yes.
So that's kind of the hub for everything. I am all over on social media. That is the hashtag or the handle own or Awkward Career as well. So I'm just happy to connect with people anywhere, and I've got a free worksheet where you can take the first steps on owning your awkward, and it helps you kind of walk through what is that thing that you feel like has been holding you back, and how is it actually your superpower?
It's amazing. It's Andy's show, everybody, and I am biased, but I love it. It's a fun podcast, a great content creator. Everything he touches is just outstanding. So I am a big fan, Andy.
Well,
so to have you on my screen is a big joy for me. So when I saw the email come in that we have time together, I'm like, I really look forward to this. I really do. You just show up, you bring a lot of light. There's something about you, something special about you, Andy. So to have time with you is a joy for me. So please come back. Please
Definitely.
come back.
I always look forward to it. And I am so appreciative of time. You are a professional. You are amazing. You have great questions. And you make me think about things that I haven't. I'm like, do I have the answer? Like, I don't know if I'm ready for this, but in a good way. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good. I like talking to my friends. So Andy, you're one of my friends. You're in the group, man.
Awesome.
I love it. So my job in this, my whole thing, the reason I'm on this planet, I think, from what I can gather, is I'm here to collect as many people as possible. That's my goal. So you're in the collection now, Andy, and I'm thrilled. So
honored.
Awesome. Excellent. Everyone, all information is always in the show notes. You know what to do when, not if, you buy these amazing books from Andy. I'm super curious about the Uber book. That's really fun. Go and buy the books. Leave a great review. Let people know why you love it. If you know somebody who would love these books as well, buy a second copy and send it to them. Just skip the whole process. Just buy an extra one. Andy would love to hear your thoughts about the books as well. You're looking for coaching. You want to get on stage. You've written a book and you got to get out and promote it. You want to be on podcasts. And you're looking for somebody who can hold your hand, encourage you, make you smile, and give you the confidence to get out there and share your message. Andy is your person. And you need to reach out to him right away and make some time with him. Pay him generously because he's worth every penny, and you'll love what you learn from Andy. Andy, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Dave. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. You are the best. Livingthenextchapter.com is our website. If you're interested and you want to know more, go there, check out all our links. You can find everything to do with Living the Next Chapter all in one place at livingthenextchapter.com. including a calendar link. Yeah. So whether you want to come on the show as a guest and talk about your book and your writing and all that, or you just want to get together and have a virtual coffee with Dave, it's right there on livingthenextchapter.com. The calendar, my links, my buy me a coffee, because, I love my coffee. Anything to do with Living the Next Chapter, you can find at livingthenextchapter.com. I would love for you to come and see what we're doing over there. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the show. Catch you on the next episode. Take care.